This is Vigilante for ReasonForRhymes.com. That's reason with the number 4rhymes.com. And also tell it like a T.I. is. And on the line I have Dr. Samori Spagler. What's going on, brother?
I'm chilling, brother. I'm chilling. How you doing today?
Doing pretty good, man. We was talking earlier, man. You came up with something that I think that this would do a lot of the fans for Reason for Rhymes and tell it like it is some real good. So let's talk about the food and the situation that you want to talk about.
Yeah, it's what I want to call it is hip hop caveat. You know what I'm saying? A caveat is kind of like that word to the wise. That's that buyer beware. There's a little something else behind that, that wall. So you have to kind of always have your psyche prepared for that next level or what's behind door number 2. It's a word of caution. And so I'm looking at, being a fan of hip hop, growing up in New York in the 80s, what I'm saying, all the way up to now, you get to see that vast progression, that transformation, that evolution of hip hop to where it is now. And one thing that I think everybody can agree on is the fact that we're noticing a lot of casualties of the rap and hip-hop portion of the music industry. And it's kind of like, I don't want to see a lot of our young people, when I'm talking I mean specifically African-American young kids, fall victim anymore. We've seen it every time we turn around. The music industry has impregnated the medium of hip-hop to something that's toxic. And every time you turn around, the music is bombarding, it's influencing the psyche of our youth, and they go from that auditory consumption of rap, hip-hop, and they all of a sudden start manifesting what they're hearing. You know what I'm saying? So It's like, how can we prevent this next generation? Because, it's generational at the same time, because times change. It's not, we're no longer in the Big Daddy King era. We're no longer like, the Sugar Hill Gang and none of that. Now we're in a whole nother lane of music. I mean, to the point where some songs come out, the beat is good, but you probably can't even understand what the person is saying. Like, it's like, you mumbling, what are you saying? So with that said, we kind of want these caveats addressed. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I have to tap my man Vigilante on this because I know that you got something heavy to say about it. We're talking about the incarceration of African Americans. We're seeing the overuse and abuse of drugs and how that's consuming and destroying lives. We see the gang violence that's happening. Just so much that can be talked about that I think can be fixed in some portion by the medium of hip-hop. So that's kind of like where I wanted to go with this with you.
Let's get it, man. Like I did a blog earlier about is conscious hip-hop dead and can it be resurrected? Because I started off by saying you have NWA and you got Public Enemy. I started with them even though we know NWA didn't start gangster rap and Public Enemy wasn't the first to start conscious rap. But I'm saying, but those were two of the biggest groups that came out of each lane to do great out of everybody else. You look behind the groups like Public Enemy is the head. You look at gangster rap groups, NWA by far, even though they only had 2 albums, is still the head. But at the end of the day, when you take it like an arms race, I've said it in my blog, let's treat it like an arms race. USA being Public Enemy, Russia being NWA. At the end of the day, when you go decades after decades, you think that Russia, NWA, won. Because there's more artists reflecting the NWA model than there are artists that are reflecting Public Enemy. Would you agree to that?
I would agree.
So there's, go ahead. There lies the prize. Yeah, okay. There lies the problem. It's the fact that it was balanced when you think about it back then, but when you go decade after decade, it's unbalanced, and it seems like where are the conscious MCs? And you hear Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, somebody was, that was on board's page said, well, he named out Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole. I say, for every Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole, I can name you about 60 rappers that's totally opposite of that. And it wasn't, like I say, they're by themselves with swords in their hand, fighting against a system that got automatic weapons against them, that's pushing mass incarceration, like you said, that's pushing drugs, that's pushing the disrespect of women, and at the same time, women are disrespecting themselves, twerk videos and this type of thing, everything for money, that money agenda. It's like, I do anything for money agenda, and when you're going through it, and if you say anything about it, then you're hating on somebody's pockets. So how do we get that message out to the young masses? And let me say this, Amari, I don't think we spoke about. Not only to the young masses that are being influenced, but the older cats that's within our age that are living their second childhood, so they influenced by it too. If they want to be like the young people, they're still dressing up and going to the club, chasing after the young girls and trying to be young instead of being, wherever their age is. So that problem is just as big because a lot of these kids are growing up in the houses of the sons of NWA. And they're the grandkids of NWA. But the son was playing this music and living that lifestyle, so they saw it and they mimicked it. And if you looked at it, because with all the killings that's going on right now with young black men and also police brutality, that's going on right in our face, y'all. Like I said in the blog earlier. In 1990 or 91, when the Rodney King thing happened, we saw it. We saw Public Enemy speak out about the stuff that was going on in Bensonhurst, back in the days of Fight the Power. That cannot compare to the Freddie Gray, Sean Bell, Oscar Grant, Walter Scott, Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland. That it can't compare, but there's not unless you underground, there's not one so-called mainstream activist rapper or anything that's speaking out about that. I'll let you have the table and you explain that.
Oh man, you set the table. I mean, you put the fork out, you put the spoon out, you put the knife, the plate, my glass to drink from. We're gonna have a meal. You might have to break this down into you might have to chop this series into 4 parts.
Do it. We do it.
We could do so you can just break it down part 1 on this day, part 2 on that day. But no, what it is we have to keep in mind that because we don't run the industry, right? We don't run the industry on policy and power. We are more so that raw material that the industry uses. Kind of almost any industry, like textile industry, the mining industry. They extract raw material, gold, you know what I'm saying? Silver, iron ore. And then they reshape it and formulate it to something that's usable and can be marketed, can be advertised. It can become a commodity. It can become commercialized for consumer consumption, right? So these hip-hop artists, they are raw material, straight from the ghetto, straight from the gutter, straight from your local neighborhood, your community, that's raw material right there because they all have their unique characteristics. Just like gold has its own certain melting point. Silver has its own melting point. You know what I'm saying? Their own boiling point and things of that nature. Different rappers from different communities have different experiences, and they can all speak about those experiences and how they grow up and live and all of that. And so they all have different stories to tell, which is what makes hip-hop diverse. But the record industry says, you know what? Let's extract these guys. I'm going to extract him from Compton like a piece of gold. I'm going to extract this guy from New York like a piece of silver. I'm going to extract this guy from Atlanta like some aluminum. And then we're going to reformulate him, repackage him, distribute him to what we want him to be. You know what I'm saying? So it's when you look at the executive boards of all these companies, they don't reflect the raw products from Compton or from a Southside Jamaica, Queens, or from a Harlem or anything like that. So what it is we have to start consistently bombarding our youth with positive messages, positive environments. And when I say environment, that means from the home to when they walk outside of the house in the community, to when they're getting educated in school, to after-school activities, to places of worship. Everything has to become positively reinforced. Then the messages that they rap about become positively reflected. Now, the music industry, they have to see, okay, now how can I handle this? Because it already looks like this raw material has already kind of been processed. How do I do? No, you know what? No, that's when we have to stand up and say, you know what? No, you cannot process and commercialize and turn this into a commodity for sale. We got this now. This is our industry. You know, because see what it is a lot of the young kids, they're amused. They have that allure of all the tapestry, the ornaments, you know, all the bells, whistles, and the amenities of what they see on these videos and what they rap about. You know, like, oh, you know, they got the next Benz, they got the new BM, they got the new Lex, you know, they got the mansion with the pool, they got the shorties with the bikinis on by the pool party, they popping bottles all night. You know, everything that just seems right, but that's not what it really is.
It is a big lie. Go ahead.
It's a big lie.
Yeah, so here's the deal. You said a mouthful, like you're saying, you know, I'm taking a napkin and I'm wiping it, and let's get to it. Now, I'm telling the waiter, come back here, fill the drink up, and lay another steak down. What do we do? You said that. We know that. Let's take a look at country music. When country music started getting out of hand and getting away from its original format, those country stars and fans spoke out against it and went hard. So, oh no, you're not going to make country music this. You know what I'm saying? There's still a divide right now in country music, which has more radio stations than any other stations. You know, you go anywhere, you're going to find a country station way quicker than any hip-hop or urban station. When you drive, just get in your car and go all across the world, you'll find way more country music stations than hip-hop or R&B. And they patrol their music. They patrol it as best as they can, and they will say something about it. I think that because people say, and especially I'm going to refer to Boy's page, because a lot of them say, well, hip hop's dead and stuff. And in a sense, Nas was like a prophet. You know, people didn't want to accept it at the time, but now they kind of think like, whoa, he may be right. He may was on to something. But my thing is, how do we, in an industry where we don't have the power, we have many figureheads like Puffy and 50 and Jay-Z, Dr. Dre, that's making money and they're the faces, but do they really have the raw power? And matter of fact, would it be to their benefit if you switch the music? Would that affect their pockets? Because a lot of them has made the money off the very thing that's hurting us right now. The very thing that's hurting us right now is that they have made millions up to billions of dollars on the culture, but the culture is still unbalanced, unstable, and it is, if you look at Chicago, you look at just out of Chicago alone, there's probably about 10 to 11 rappers under the age of 25 who've been killed on their way to making it big, or from JoJo to, there's so many artists have died because of the gun talk and that particular thing, neighborhoods. Because you tell a kid, one kid who's coming from the block, South Side Chicago, I'm from South Side, come to South Side, you got one that says, hey, I'm staying in the ghetto, but, you know, I'm trying to make it out of here. You got the other one that says, you know, I'm in this trap, and their OGs or guys are bragging about that trap, and you see a lot of money being made out that trap. Why would you want to be Lupe or Common? You see what I'm saying? Why would you want to be that when they can look and see people in other states winning? If Bobby Smurder didn't get reckless, you know, and get caught with the drugs thing, I would have loved to see what would be his follow-up to what he was doing for the Hot Nigga song. You see what I'm saying? So these young people was making money. You know, it was one thing when Soldier Boy was just talking about doing a dance. Then you start getting people Soldier Boy age talking about forget the dance, I got a gun. And then you look at who's committing these crimes. It's those people that's mimicking some of the rappers and their environment, and they're not saying, I got to get away from this environment. I am embracing this environment. Let's take this, and I'm going to let you eat some too. Let's take the white rapper, I think from Ohio, by the name of Slim Jesus. He said on Vlad TV that, hey, I don't live that type of life. You just rap about it. Because why? Because he can go and be white, be the Slim Jesus, rapping with a bunch of black guys behind him with guns and so, and he can go back to being white. We can't go back to being nothing but black. That's all we are. So if they can come and love that part of the culture. Now, Slim Jesus didn't come into the culture saying, you know, I really love KRS-One, or I really love, you know, Lupe, or I want to talk consciousness. I see a lot of my friends that happen to be black getting stopped by the police, getting beat by the police, and I want to rap about that. See, that's when you can respect someone outside of the race that come in and want to do this and not be a culture vulture, but want to come in and go, wow, I see what's going on, because you really got these friends, but none of these rappers talk about that. Even the white rappers, they don't talk about what's going on in the very culture that they say they studied and grew up with. They don't talk about it in their music. So they echo and we echo the same thing that's killing hip-hop, but bigger than killing hip-hop, it's killing our kids and it's killing our future. You would say.
Yes. Man, okay. All right, so I need to get a refill on my plate, okay? No, this is food. This is food. Anybody that loves hip-hop music and rap, they definitely can appreciate what we're talking about. So I think what it is we're dealing with an industry that has created, it has groomed, it has orchestrated the appetite, our audio appetite. There it is. It has created our audio appetite. It dictates what we think we should hear. Because, like you were saying in country music, if you look at a lot of music genres where you have heavily white populated artists in those genres, you don't see or hear them like, oh, I'm gonna, like, you know, you look at country music. He's not talking about, oh, I'm gonna pop a cap and Toby Maguire, you know, I'm gonna blow the brains out of, give me what's a country artist, Shania Twain, whatever, you know, like, I'm gonna blow her brains. Like, no, they're not saying that. You know, their thing is, look, you know, I'm on my horse and my dog got left alone. Like, you know what I'm saying? They making you know, that's they speaking whatever that is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a deliberate, your message is always a deliberate choice. You know what I'm saying? Your message is a deliberate choice. Whether we're talking about country music, whether we're talking about pop, like, you don't see, I'm pretty sure, like, you know, if you probably go deep, like, you know, something like that gothic stuff, or just like heavy rave club type stuff, you may find something like crazy music, but, you know, a lot of the genre in which whites are heavily populated as musical artists, they don't talk about discussing hurting somebody of their own, or selling drugs to their own, you know, how they going to pimp their woman, how their woman is a B-I-T-C-H or H-O-E. You know, you don't hear that. Why is it that we do that? Why is it acceptable? Why is it marketable that we do that? Who said that this was okay? Is it that record labels say, you know what? Yes, we'll give you $1 million contract, but we want you to rap about this, talk about this, and we will give you that. We'll give you this money to do that. And so, being that as African Americans, historically speaking, and to the present, we're economically depressed, so any life preserver that they can throw out into the cesspool that everybody's drowning in America, we're grabbing anything. Like, okay, well, he says he can give me $1 million contract. It's, you know, listen, you know, the lights got to be turned on, ain't no water in it. All right, fine, cool. I'll rap about it. I got lyrical skill. I got talent. Boom. And that's where we have to understand where things diverge. You have skill. You have talent. That is the raw material. What you use, what you decide to infuse your raw talent, your lyrical skill with, that's where it diverges. Because you don't have to talk about slinging drugs, how many birds you sold and moved and all of that. And, that right there, we allow the music industry to come in and do that. And see, the other thing too, Bidge, is what gets me is when you try to bring this up to a lot of these music artists that have made it real big, whether financially big or just notoriety big, because those are two different things. You can be famous and still be broke. And you have some that are famous and they're financially well off. When you try to explain to them about the plight of African Americans and what we're facing and what we're seeing and how it correlates and ties into the music industry, because the music industry is kind of almost the soundtrack to the destruction, it's like, well, I'm not their role model. That's the common scapegoat excuse. And it's kind of like, I smell BS right there. And I'm going to call you on the BS because the same way you want to say you're not the role model, well, let me throw a little monkey wrench at you. All these dudes, whether we're talking about Jay-Z, whether we're talking about, the list can go on, Rick Ross, whatever the case may be, 50 Cent, whatever the case may be, you know what I'm saying? It's like, well, you're saying you're not the role model for these kids that listen to you, your listenership, your audience, your fan base, right? You're not their role models. Yet they idolize you, right? Now, at the same time, let me flip it on you. So, Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, Brian De Palma, right? All these guys that created all these movies like Scarface, Casino, Carlito's Way, all these gangster movies. Do you think they said, oh, I'm going to make these movies specifically for Jay-Z and Rick Ross and 50 Cent and all these others so I can be their role model? Me, Brian De Palma, me, Martin Scorsese, me, Francis Ford Coppola. I want to be their role model. Hell no. That's not what they were thinking. They didn't do it. But for some reason or another, Jay-Z, 50 Cent, and all these other, famous stars, what do? Almost every other song, they making some reference, some line to, Scarface, Godfather, Goodfellas, Carlito's Way, whatever the case may be. So you've become appointed, you've become adopted. You involuntarily have become the surrogate role model for these rappers. So now these rappers, you've become involuntary, surrogate, adopted, and appointed role models for these kids that are buying your album. So don't pull that. Don't pull that, because, you know what I'm saying, for you to say that, I have to take it back to these, Hollywood producers and directors like I just named. So,
and I think that when you say that, it really hits me to another level, and we're gonna definitely do part 1, 2, 3 on this one. But let's just say this: you just named out those movies, and we mimic that because is it a bigger issue that deep down inside, a lot of blacks, whether it be artists, basketball players, or actors, regular people, deep down inside, is it in our psyche to want to be white, to want to live the white life? Because I see a lot of people say Frank, Jay-Z also does that Frank Sinatra type thing. You know what I'm saying? The Rat Pack and that stuff. You've seen Puffy, Drake, and them do that. There was Nat King Cole that song that kind of music that was cool, slick, women loved them and stuff. We seem to only put Scarface on our shirt. We won't put Marley or some black icon that's on there, or some of our greatest actors on our shirts. But we will. Scarface ain't even a real person. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, he's just as iconic as anybody. He's as iconic as anybody, and he's make believe. That's like me having, Tom and Jerry, on my shirt and just swear by it. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to chase that mouse till I get him. You know, and you lose it. And that's what, ironically, let me just tap myself. Ironically, that's what it is. Hip-hop, and the industry of hip-hop is the mouth. The rappers are Tom. In their mind, they think that they're going to get Jerry. Every time. I got him. Bam. He escapes every single time. He's undefeated. He's never took a loss to Tom. Tom has never beat Jerry. Why? Because it's in the script for you to never win. It's written there because you're following if you follow my rules and my plans, if you follow it, if you don't deviate, you're never going to win. That's what people don't understand. We'll let one or two get in. You know what I'm saying? To make it look like you're winning. But for every 2 or 3 that's in, Dre, 50 Cent, you know what I'm saying, Jay-Z, Puffy, that's a whole mass of people that's not even close to winning, losing, bankruptcy, going through it, frustrated, don't know why. And I feel sorry for rappers with the skills, with the intent to want to do right, and with the intent and the ability to create masterpieces that will not see the light of day, because the industry will not let them in. And the sad thing about it, we create a lot of stuff. We create clothing. Hip hop is the gift that keeps giving. People get basketball schools and colleges have changed how they dress, their the colors of their of their uniform to make it look more hip hop. Well, black shoes and all this thing that hip hop is influenced from the time of NWA and East Coast wearing starter jackets and stuff like that. And Run DMC having people hold their Adidas in the air. The LL Cool J Troops back in the days. So even Troop was a great jogging suit, and everybody wore Troops because the rappers wore it. Think about the marketing to the point that we can't say to ourselves, if we can create all this stuff and make all them billionaires, but yet we can't say, you know what, let's start our own station and make that, get our own distribution channel and do that. Why is that? See, that's the thing. You got the same people running that, and they control it. The movie houses, the same way. To try to get your movie, you got to go through that. We see how much that Kanye West complained about how he can't get into the clothing industry. They don't care about your money, Kanye. We're not going to let you into that part, but you can work for us. We're not even really practice Boy's financial Juneteenth, Black Wall Street mentality, and create things. Think about it, they copy us. So that means that if we create our own thing, why not let them copy us and go through us to get the validation instead of reverse?
No, you're right. And the thing is, what we have to do is we have to change the onus, change the focus, change the goal of what the people want. Then the industry will adjust to us. See, it's kind of like they got it to the point where they manipulated it so that we're constantly saying, oh, we like this, we want this. And so they're telling these rappers that they give them these contracts to rap about this because this is what's selling. So they create the market. Then they handpick the artists to keep influencing the consumers, who are the listeners, to buy these albums. And so it's kind of like, if we, as individuals, like, in the community, your regular Joe Blow, all the way from the most street dude all the way up to your white collar, 7-figure black person, if everybody is thinking along the lines of elevated awareness, consciousness, if we're community oriented, guess what? The rappers are going to be forced and dictated to rap about that because that is what the people want. So the industry will have to bend to the desires of the people that are listening, because they're saying, look, you know what? We don't want to hear that. So now what it is you have a product that's not selling. So you have to change, the person that is, your salesman, which is the artist. The artist is the salesman of the idea. So we as individuals have to change our psyche and what we consume. Once we change what we consume and what our appetite and our demand is, the artist is going to be forced to change his message. All he is the messenger. You know what I'm saying? And the music,
but it's gonna be
just. Go ahead.
Go ahead. The music.
No, go ahead.
And yeah, I think it's gonna be hard though. Okay, let's. We're in it, but I'll let you have a last word. This will be part one. There's a reason I said that would be hard, Dr. Samori, is the fact of the matter is, let's trade it. Let's segue this into being health. Our health. Until we get diabetes, and even when you get diabetes, can you get off that sweet taste of that sugar, that barbecue, and all stuff, and eat that healthy food? That's the thing, because you know you painted it perfectly. That if the community say that we don't want to hear that stuff, but if I don't make everyone in the community hooked to my drug, then you're not gonna have nobody else, because they're all like zombies. You're not gonna have nobody else that's gonna really push out there. Because the reason I say that, and it's sad that I say that, is we are seeing black men choked out, shot with no guns, unarmed. Even a black woman killed, whatever you want to say, killed herself, whatever, slammed down. Our 14-year-old daughters get slammed to the grass and screaming for their parents, and nobody's there to help her but watch. And the community has did what? And you got, Black Lives Matter. You got a few people that's murmuring, but it shouldn't even just be them. It should be way bigger than that. It should be way more people, but nobody's willing to risk anything. In the 60s, in 50s and on down, they had no choice because they was being lynched. They couldn't drink out the same water fountain. Now, we're drinking out the same water fountain. Now they're telling you, hey, you got just as much opportunity as us. Look at this. You got a black president. So how do you go against somebody with a checker mentality and they playing chess? Because checkers and chess is both fun games, but one of them is just a little bit more serious than the other and a little bit more complicated than the other. And even though you say I'm the best checkers player in the world, you're coming on a chessboard. Some things are similar, how the squares are, but how they move is totally different. And you can't win that way. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I see. But I'll let you have the last word.
Man, that right there is kind of exactly where I want to go. Playing chess with checker players. That's why I think the music industry is as profitable as it is to white music owners, because of the fact that they are able to say, look, you know what, I've got this little guy in the hood that's rapping, X, Y, and Z. He's going to generate some millions for me through his, through just my marketing and my distribution. I know that I can get a couple of million. Okay. Give him maybe $500,000, right? They take the millions of dollars that they get from sales, from downloads, from concerts, all of that, marketing. They get those millions of dollars. We're talking about the owners. Yeah, here's the chess move. Okay, so the rapper making an album, that's checkers. I make my album, I'm rapping, I'm touring. That's checkers. Here's chess, hip-hop chess. The owners are playing chess. They take your millions from platinum sales, and then they take your millions, deposit that into their investment portfolio. Okay? So now, their investment portfolio, what are they doing? They're taking your money from your ghetto-ass rap songs, and they're investing in mining, textile industry, real estate, aeronautics, aerospace, farming, biotechnology, computers, the medical industry, robotics, the auto industry, the solar and the fuel industry, and transforming your ghetto-ass lyrics into multi-billion-dollar industry. That's chess for your ass.
You're right.
But we can do that too.
In the prison
system. Okay. Hey, that's chess.
That's the real game, man. That's the real game, and we hope that people are educated. We're gonna also get into part 2 where we single out some of the rappers. We look at some of the MCs that have died, some that's in jail, some that that's out bankrupted, some that the industry we've seen kick them out, act like they never existed. Right. So that's what we'll come up with part 2, man. Once again, man, I definitely thank you for coming on the show, man. Now, Doctor, tell people where they can find you at, and also that new album you got.
Oh yeah. So you can hit me on Twitter at DocSwag06. That's DocSwagg06. That's on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook. Just my name, Samori, Samori Swigert, Swygert. I also write with Your Black World, Financial Juneteenth, and a slew of other websites. The album I just released August 22nd. It debuted as number 2 on Amazon's Hot Sellers list under the Quiet Storm genre. This is entitled, the album is entitled Porn, but it's not like the way you guys are thinking. It stands for Poetry, Oration, Rhythm, and Narrative. And it talks about all of the the non-physical and physical intimacy that exists between, you know what I'm saying, male and female, and just kind of like, nation building, just kind of like, how you can really appreciate and adore your partner. And it's all done by HBCU artists, Norfolk State, Hampton University, Howard University. So yeah, that's on Amazon, iTunes, CD Baby, Google Play. So the album is entitled Porn, Porn, by Samori Swigert.
That's right, man. No doubt, man. We definitely gonna push that, man, and we're gonna get to part 2 of it, man. I can't wait to do part 2 because I know it's gonna that list that you gave me with those MCs. We're gonna get to it, okay? We're gonna get to it. You gotta keep it real on this show. You know how we do it, man. All right, y'all. This is Vigilante for ReasonForRhymes.com. That's Reason with the number 4, Rhymes.com. And tell them like the PI is, we are out.